Welcome to Dave's Take. Today we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the third film in this Sonic the Hedgehog trilogy. So Sonic 3 is about Sonic and Tails and Knuckles, but this time we have Shadow the Hedgehog. When I was a kid, I used to play Sonic all the time. I loved that Sonic Adventure 2 battle on the GameCube. That was one of my favorite games of all time. And I remember enjoying the first movie. I can't really remember what I said in that review. I probably said the same thing that I'm saying now. I just really love Sonic, and I was kind of surprised by the first movie. But I didn't see the second one. I actually watched it for the first time this week, and I thought it was just fine. I wasn't really impressed by it. I'm not expecting anything to really blow my mind with these movies. But I think there were things about that movie that really bothered me, specifically with the human characters. They focus way too much on them sometimes. So I went to Sonic 3 pretty much fuck it, Bring on Shadow. Let's see what they can do. And I have to say, this is probably one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. Probably because I didn't have super high expectations. But this film was an absolute blast, and it is hands down the best Sonic film in the trilogy. One of the reasons why this is easily the best film out of the three is because there's barely any human stuff in here. They definitely sideline that stuff. They pop up every once in a while, very briefly, mostly for a joke. But the plot and the story elements, everything is focused on those Sonic characters that you've grown to love. They finally realized the best parts about the Sonic movies are the Sonic things. And they focused on that, and I was actually surprised by what they did. Yeah, the story itself isn't reinventing the wheel, and you can easily predict what's going to happen, but I do appreciate the characterization they had with our main characters, the lessons that they learned, and it actually worked well with the story. So let's talk about Shadow, because Shadow is probably the best part about this movie. They gave him a real backstory that I really thought was interesting. It gave him real motivation, and you understand why he's doing the things that he's doing. Keanu Reeves was probably perfect casting for Shadow, but as a Sonic fan growing up and seeing the things they did with Shadow here, it was just so much fun to watch. And they gave him a gun. They gave Shadow a gun. These creators understand Shadow because he had a gun. But I really appreciated this movie pretty much right from the beginning. It gets right into the story, and it doesn't let up, and it's just a lot of fun all the way through for the most part. And sure, you could say that's kind of how the first two movies are, but with this, I just thought the story was way more fun and interesting with these characters and with Shadow and all of that, that the movie just moved along at a way better pace, and I think a lot more things that happened in this movie landed a lot better. And I just love to see Jim Carrey giving it his all. He never phones it in. You could tell he really gave it his 100% effort with this movie, being Dr. Robotnik. He seems like he's having a lot of fun with it. And it was just great to see him doing Jim Carrey stuff again. That stuff, honestly, never gets old, because those are the best parts about the first two movies, too. And he's a lot of fun here. But there's a story and a message here that kind of similar to the first two movies, but it's about holding on to grief, wanting revenge and why that's bad. But I just feel like this film dealt with those themes a lot better than the other two movies, and it really emphasized the story and made it a lot more fun. But then there are also moments where I'm like, oh shit, this is actually pretty serious. This is kind of heavy. Was not expecting this in this Sonic movie. The action is a lot of fun, especially if you're a fan of the video games. This is definitely the best out of the three when it comes to the action. The way that Sonic moves and how he battles and all the characters and all of that really feels like we're watching the video game, and it's really well done. And there are moments in here that are definitely Easter eggs, they're definitely callbacks, they're definitely cheap nostalgia, but I can't help it. With a movie like this where I wasn't expecting some Oscar movie, it was a lot of fun to see, and Sonic fans are going to love it. But obviously this film isn't perfect. I think the story is pretty predictable. It does slow down a little bit towards the middle, I would say. And there are definitely plot points here that don't really add up to the overall story. There are characters that are introduced, specifically one villain, and she's completely sidelined. I didn't even think she was a villain. That part of the story was kind of confusing, and they don't really address it later in the movie or ever again. So all of that felt kind of pointless. And there's some elements here, just like the first two movies, that don't really work when it comes to some of the jokes, some of the story beats. But I gotta say, this is definitely a major improvement on the first two films. And this is coming from someone who loves Sonic, but thinks the first two films are just okay. They're totally fine. They're movies I probably wouldn't watch again. Sonic 3, I could definitely watch this movie again. This movie really surprised me. It was just a lot of fun. It's not going to reinvent the wheel. It's not going to win any Oscars. And if you go into this movie really trying to nitpick things, you're going to have a lot of issues. But if you just want a fun Sonic adventure with those Sonic elements that you've grown to love, with a story that is actually engaging, interesting, and a lot of fun and works for this movie, with action sequences that are a lot of fun and feel like love letters to the video games, if you're a big Sonic fan, you're going to love this movie. And I think it's definitely the best out of the three. I'm going to give Sonic the Hedgehog 3 7 Davey Daves. Stay for the post-credits scene. Even I understood what that meant, and I haven't played Sonic in a long time. So if you're a big Sonic fan, I can't imagine why you won't be excited. So, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Davey Dave's Takes.